What's up guys? Welcome to AnimeKouhai, an extension of Anime Senpai PH channel. All pieces of information are derived from the light novel. In today's video, we will start Chapter 1, Volume 8 of the light novel, entitled Reconciliation and Agreement. This video is the first part of Chapter 1 in our Tensura spoiler video series. If you haven't watched the previous episodes, feel free to check out the links in the description below. Now, let's get to the video. Things became much harder after all that. Getting everything settled was more exhausting for Rimuru than fighting Hinata, a fact he made sure remained a closely guarded secret. Rimuru recalled what had happened. Luminous, the single god, worshipped by the Western Holy Church, was none other than the Demon Lord Valentine. Her real name was Luminous Valentine all along. Luminous had been using a trusted confidant as a stand-in, giving him her name, Valentine, so her confidant could fully play the part of Demon Lord in her stead. That, of course, was all in the past. Now that Veldora had so breezily blown her cover at the last Walpurgis Council, the Crusaders, the team of Paladin Knights, led by Hinata, stood in opposition to the Demon Lord Valentine, which earned the Empire the support of the general public. The entire setup was wholly contrived, something that Hinata knew all along. But whatever rational sense the arrangement made, Rimuru wondered why Hinata went along with it. Hinata sighed and said that it had been out of her hands. She explained that Lady Luminous had defeated her when Hinata tried to put a stop to things herself, and not that Lady Luminous was much interested in the people's support in the first place. Hinata must have sensed Rimuru's skepticism. Reluctant or not, apparently Hinata was incapable of defying Luminous's will. However, Hinata did extract a promise from Luminous that no civilians would be harmed in the process. As long as Luminous stuck to that, Hinata was willing to hold up her end of the bargain. But as the man who was with Hinata then explained, this ploy wasn't Hinata's doing in the first place. The man revealed that he had been the one who came up with the plan. His brother Roy was all for it. Lady Luminous had little to do with it, and Hinata was so against it at first that she tried to take them all down. The man continued that if anyone had an issue with it, they should complain to him, not Luminous. This was Louie, the Holy Emperor, as he called himself. Rimuru responded all right and tried calling Louie His Majesty. Louie chuckled and said that just Louie was fine, calling Rimuru his Demon Lord. Even though the Paladins were right in front of them, Louie apparently didn't have much time for formality. Given how Rimuru was a Demon Lord, just like his boss, Luminous, Rimuru supposed being casual with people like him came naturally. Louie then embarked on a recap of recent events, loudly enough for the Paladins to hear. Rimuru asked Louie if the Valentine he had met at Walpurgis was his brother. Louie confirmed it and said that he was his younger twin brother, to be more precise. Louie added that unfortunately, it seemed his brother was killed by unknown assailants on the way home from the council. Rimuru was surprised to hear that his brother was killed, but Louie didn't look or sound too broken up about it, though this news was kind of a surprise. Rimuru thought that stand-in or not, that Demon Lord Valentine was clearly a powerful dude. Louie explained that his brother, Roy, had a tendency to be overly confident, and he must have left himself exposed. The Western Holy Church had many enemies. There were quite a few nations who considered the Holy Emperor Libelius as an eyesore. Louie imagined that one of their assassins must have caught his brother unawares, and it's a great disappointment. Despite his lack of grief, Louie didn't seem wholly unmoved by the loss. Louie was pretty strong too. Rimuru could see that much. But if his Demon Lord class brother was now dead, Louie must not have been too optimistic about his own future. Hinata said she'd been enlisting Roy to work with the new recruits lately, for on-the-field training. And one time, Sara actually managed to overpower Roy in battle, so he'd clearly been off his game. But they still needed to watch out for whoever killed him. Hinata assumed not that any of that mattered to Rimuru. Hinata had a point. Roy had left hardly any impact on Rimuru's life at all. Now, at least, Rimuru had a handle on Louie, Valentine, and Luminas, as did the Crusaders, listening in on them. This was all news to them, and they were all shocked into silence. Now Hinata turned to her soldiers and told them that it wasn't her intention to deceive them, but she supposed that's how this worked out. One paladin tried to pose a question, but Hinata raised a hand to stop the question before it began. She coldly continued that she couldn't tell any of them. They needed to have as few people in on the plan as possible. If any of them revealed it, they would have been forced to execute them. Hinata didn't mince her words. Arno brashly said that Hinata wouldn't trick old Arno here, because the Demon Lord Luminas had threatened Hinata into doing this. This Arno guy was awfully brash. Hinata, however, swiftly shut him down. Hinata denied it and reiterated that their citizens were under the protection of Lady Luminas, and that's the truth. Hinata continued that she had chosen to carry out her will as long as Lady Luminas remained friendly to humanity. Hinata told Arno that he wouldn't insult Lady Luminas around her, and shot her steely-eyed paladin a glare. Rimuru could see where this misunderstanding came from. No wonder Shizu had been concerned. Rimuru suggested to Hinata to try being a bit kinder, because that's not nearly enough explanation for them. "I'm sorry, does this involve you?" Hinata said, and her glare was on Rimuru. Clearly, Hinata wanted Rimuru to knock it off. Rimuru replied that he thought it did, because it would be kind of annoying if the guys started infighting with each other here. "I don't need your concern, thanks. Besides," said Hinata, but she was cut off by Arno, saying that there was no need to worry because Lady Hinata had fully earned their trust. His compatriot Renard echoed that Arno was right and told Rimuru that they were led by Lady Hinata, not Luminous, calling him Good Demon Lord Rimuru. Renard added that there was no disagreement that could possibly separate them. They might have all had their own thoughts about it, but none of that trumped the faith they had in Hinata. Having a trust-based relationship really is the most important thing. "Well, alright," Rimuru said, nodding. Besides, after watching that, Arno pointed up and paused. Rimuru knew what Arno was getting at. There, in the air above, Luminous and Veldora had just engaged in a battle that was nothing short of breathtaking, as much as Rimuru wished they hadn't. Rimuru kept everyone on the ground safe through Uriel's absolute defense skill, but they fought over such a large range. Rimuru couldn't say if there'd be any outside casualties. Anyone who had seen Luminous's ferocious attack would be just as flummoxed as Arno. Arno continued that looking at that battle, he could understand how Lady Hinata was defeated. The other paladin said that Luminous certainly didn't call herself a god for show, and if she turned her back on humanity, there'd be nothing they could do about it. To the Crusaders, the sight of it was far more convincing than any speech Rimuru could have given them. Louie said there was no need to concern themselves about that. Lady Luminous was a generous god. She had no interest in tormenting those under her divine protection. In fact, she had proven to be so friendly toward the humans who didn't try to defy her. Of course, no one here was allowed to divulge her true identity. Maintaining confidentiality about the whole Demon Lord thing was top priority to Louie. It was Veldora who blew her cover anyway, so Rimuru saw no reason not to cooperate with that effort. And the other paladins seemed convinced that this was a valid thing to do, mainly because Hinata wanted it, as far as Rimuru could tell. They must have loved Hinata a lot more than Rimuru thought. So Rimuru didn't think he had anything to worry about, which was good, because in his eyes, Hinata tended to be too terse, too blunt, too easily misunderstood for her own good. Hinata asked Rimuru if he was thinking something rude about her again. Rimuru was surprised and responded no, he wasn't. Rimuru wondered if Hinata had ESP or something and thought she must be reading his mind. Incorrect, no influence of that sort detected, responded Raphael. But Rimuru insisted to Raphael that maybe Hinata just had the uncanniest sixth sense ever. Rimuru advised himself that he had better watch what he was thinking around her. At that very moment, someone came onto the scene, falling at terminal velocity from the sky, of course, and making a small crater on the ground. He stood right back up though, none the worse for wear, and ran up to Rimuru. It was Veldora, obviously, and now he was sidling up behind Rimuru, using Rimuru as a shield, as Veldora glared up at the sky. Ahead of him, up above, Rimuru could see a beautiful silver-haired young woman, a mask of rage on her face as she floated in midair. Veldora, in a trembling voice, asked Rimuru to give that pig-headed woman a piece of his mind. Veldora explained that he was giving her as generous an apology as he could, but she refused to listen. Rimuru replied sure, but begged Veldora to stop bringing him into this. Rimuru sounded a little bit annoyed. This time, at least, it was completely Veldora's fault. He hadn't even been resurrected for that long, and already Rimuru felt like Veldora had been a huge thorn in his side. Rimuru had been watching them, but the method Veldora chose for his apology only served to rile up Luminous. She was trying to put her sword away, and then Veldora went off like he was laughing hysterically and told Luminous that he had no bad intentions back then. Veldora asked Luminous to call it a youthful mistake and forgive him with her most generous of hearts. That was easily enough to set her off. That's it for this video, guys. If you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe and click the bell notification icon so you will never miss the upcoming continuation of Tensura's spoiler video series. Thank you for always watching my videos and supporting my channel. Shout out to the top 10 commenters on my previous video. Shout out to @DISCLAIMER 420, Joji Ray, MJ, Amiral Tempest, Abdul Fatawu, Mazin Zold, Shubham Malya, Diablo, Venom Legend, Yusef BTR, Emmanuel Arnoor, Jared TV, Baby Daddy, Finikin, Adil Ahmed, and last but not the least, shout out to Soccer for Anime. I'll see you guys in the next video.